Imagine being a ridiculously strong hedgehog. It's fast, can hit hard with his punches because of his speed and stuff, but you end up facing opponents to where it pushes you to new heights every game, to where your base form is not enough and it won't suffice. Even though your base form is getting stronger, you have to get like these super emeralds to get this super form, to become supersonic, to basically become a cosmic being, basically, that defies physics and is above everything we thought we knew about science. To the point where you get like this cyber corruption, you get this cyber sickness from this digital universe, to where you got to combine that digital energy with your super form. Like, you can see the differences. You see the blue eyes. Like, yeah, it's the super form mixed with the cyber energy, because you see his eyes are red here. You see the differences. Imagine being so powerful to where you have to literally box it out with literal planetary celestial object type beings. Punch the planetary being that was a threat for the whole universe or multiple universes stronger than all your threats from the past that was a threat for multiple universes, and you got to punch through these type of things and blow up planetoid celestial type objects. That's Sonic the Hedgehog for you. He's a fun type of character that people argue, is he a gag or is he a serious type character? He's like a blend of both, being between a serious or a gag character. Like, he acknowledges the levels in the game, like stuff he shouldn't see, being able to see the level, know when the level's finished, looking at the camera. I wish there was more video games where you can actually use super speed, like running speed and stuff. Don't judge me. My dream is a DC Flash game. Just got done beating Sonic Frontiers a couple times. Let's talk about Sonic. Since this game actually references previous games from the past, Sonic Frontiers is a part of the same continuity. In this universe, speed is everything. Sonic is a speedster type character. So yeah, a lot of the reasons why he's actually strong is because of his speed, which is pretty obvious and self-explanatory. We've even seen him run on water. There's implications that he's stronger than his size would suggest still, though. You got certain occasions like this, and him and the crew, 4 of them, he was 1/4 the strength to apparently stop the train. They even talk about it in dialogue with their, so pretty much the whole crew got super strength, including Sonic. And they actually do slow it down all the way. Since there's been so many games, it's only natural that Sonic has evolved, has improved as time went by. There's a lot of games, so one can say he's gotten faster as time went by. One can even say he's gotten faster in between each game's events in the timeline order. Like, one could say if you was to compare him right here to him right here, this one right here all day would be always faster. You know what I mean? He's improved over the time. This is even implied when newer games, they talk about the newer games being released. They talk about in the lore about he moves faster than he's ever done before. This is like a common theme. They say, oh, he's moved faster than he's ever done. Just talking about his base state. Like, it's literally stated that Sonic be having like training trips, like he be going on to get stronger over time or faster. When this is actually translated, that's what they say, training trip. He be going on. He even talks about, let's start training crew. So over time, there's implication they do get better. He gets faster as well as stronger. So when it comes to any inconsistencies, this could be part of the reason why you might see something be inconsistent. He might struggle with something he shouldn't, because over time he's gotten better. He might have struggled with something in the past. That doesn't mean he's struggling with something more in his modern and closer to his prime self. You know what I mean? There's characters that even notice, oh, that's fast even for you, Sonic, implying that he's faster than normal or gotten better or faster. Even talking about he's faster than previously recorded. He be exceeding people's expectations to show he's getting better, letting you know his potential just keeps on raising. They even talk about how he shows much potential. There's even beings that straight up say he's more formidable than they anticipated. His abilities exceed previous data, and he's fighting different beings. They say this about Sonic. Like, in pretty much every form of media, when they talk about his lore, they always mention the fact that he's a supersonic hedgehog. So I'm going to bring up speed a lot to really understand his strength in this video, just letting you know off gate. They call him supersonic here, and here, and here, and here, and here, and here. You get the idea. It's a part of his theme. And another thing that's a part of his theme that you're going to hear me bring up a lot is the fact that he's the fastest. There's a lot of fast beings in this universe, but he's the main character. He's known to be the fastest. So you can kind of get an idea of how fast he is. Like, even in his base form versus the beings in this universe speed, you can kind of assume he's faster than them too, because he's known for his speed being faster than them too. You guys probably already figured this, but yeah, he has his base form, which is ridiculously powerful, but then he has a transformation that's astronomically stronger than his base form. A good example of how his super form is way above his base form, because there's beings he's actually encountered to where in his base form he couldn't take him on. Like, I'm talking about, he even tried to take him on, tried to punch him and everything, just couldn't do it. Even though it still shows his superhuman durability and not dying from this being, it just shows that he was outclassed by this being when he tried to fight him in his base form. Sonic knew the drastic power of the supersonic form. He even said, I bet you I can take him in supersonic form. This is a good example of the power gap of him in his base form and supersonic form. You see how he's trapped with Eggman's thing here in his base state, but when he has the emeralds, it's just like a game changer. Totally new level of power. You know what I mean? So it lets you know that there's a drastic difference in power between the two, supersonic and Sonic. It's even confirmed here when this stuff is translated that everything Supersonic can do, it's better than the standard Sonic. You know, just obvious stuff. It's basically him using this universe's versions of the Infinity Stones, the Chaos Emeralds, to pretty much go golden mode and get a whole new plethora of abilities. He can do everything he can do usually, but better like this as Supersonic, including fly at super speed. But even not counting this, thanks to his raw speed, he can do versatile things with his raw speed, like literally kicking with so much speed that he can release shockwaves to do long range attacks. So yeah, he can swing his hands so fast he can make long range projectiles when he attacks. Like he can make like little vortex type kick type techniques with his speed and such. Don't lie, it's interesting seeing Sonic use a blade. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, just imagine the weight of his swings with a bladed piercing object with that kind of speed. Oh yeah, using a blade. This implies he actually does have sword training or skills to become an honorable knight. No, I'm not playing. He literally went through full-blown trials, like training sessions when he literally has a blade. This kind of lets you know how hard Sonic can hit. Also letting you know his skills with a blade, him using his speed with the blade. Not to mention it implied that the sword has a will of its own and it decides its bearer. Not gonna lie, I kind of want to see live action Sonic use a blade. Yeah, it's cool seeing him use a blade and all, especially in cinematics with this speed. We see him slicing and chopping stuff up, even mixing in like a homing looking attack with the sword speed attacks. Usually characters as powerful as Sonic, you don't expect them to actually have some type of fighting. There's implication that Sonic actually has some knowledge about actual fighting. Talking to Tails, talking about, you want me to teach you some Kempo? Like you see him doing like some little cute push-ups here, for example. There was apparently this martial art that utilized speed Kung Fu, and he is the master of it. We've actually seen him and the other crew members use a lasso. Sonic seems to have better IQ. When certain things are translated, he notices the behavioral patterns of his opponents. He talks about how opponents' moves are simple to read, wait for an opening, hit with a combo. It's no surprise he has mental fortitude. He's too strong to lose himself. Yeah, when he was like a werewolf. Yeah. Or how about the fact he's actually a full-blown energy projector, like he can manipulate energy, even in his base form, to shoot out blue energy orbs to hit you from long range if he doesn't want to use shockwaves. But when he goes into his super mode with the Chaos Emeralds, this universe version of Infinity Stones, he can do the same stuff like fly, kind of sort of do some Green Lantern stuff to where he can make like constructs of his own limbs or just multiple clone artifact or constructs of his body to kick you in different areas at the same time. This could be after images speed type technique still. Like in this occasion when he's fighting this giant beast, is implied he can make like literal chains made of golden energy, for example, like to restrain beings, like on some Green Lantern stuff. Let me give you another idea of the constructs he can make, like these big old golden yellow beams on top of this beam from top to bottom. He could just snap his fingers and crush you with the energy blasts. He can even share the power, split it into 3 parts, and it would still be a lot of power when it comes to the super form. Remember how earlier I mentioned his lifting strength is not what he specializes in, but this super form, it ridiculously magnifies that too. I mean, there's just plenty of proof of that. Don't forget, he can literally make like a giant fist yellow constructs. But just to give you an idea of what these emeralds can do, this technically means Supersonic can do it via chaos control and stuff. Chaos control is something that is known to be a reality warping skill. Technically, Supersonic, when he has these emeralds, should be able to do reality warping stuff technically. Technically, by default, Supersonic should technically be a time manipulator if we're going to be honest, because just using one of the stones, chaos control, he can create time rifts with chaos control, portal open up. Via chaos control, when he has at least one stone or something, he should technically be able to just completely stop time completely. You can actually use chaos control to stop time, just like these beings in this particular situation can. These are different beings, not Sonic, but if Sonic had the same gear, I don't see no reason why he wouldn't be able to do this too. He should also be able to stop time. And I don't see no reason why he wouldn't technically be able to seal beings in different dimensions via chaos control. Yes, stated here. Even with a fake emerald, but the wavelength and the properties were so close, he could still do chaos control. It was less powerful than the real one. You know, it was a fake emerald, but still was able to do some teleportation type stuff. Just be prepared for the unthinkable when that happens. After hearing all this versatile stuff he can do like this, technically with these emeralds, you know, just to give you a heads up. But I'll be back to this later. Here's the thing about Sonic. Even in his base form, he specializes in speed. So he's one of those characters where he can go from point A to point B levels of fast. People call this travel speed, but Sonic's one of those rare people. To whatever he can do in his travel speed, his reflexes kind of add up. So that means he has combat speed, not just running speed too. Both of them are like equal. One can say he's an overall speedster, fighting speed or just running speed in general. Because it's one thing to be fast moving in a straight line, but Sonic's one of those people where he can make quick turns while he's traveling. This is an example of combat speed. He can see where he's going moving at these super speeds. This movie, Man of Steel, for example, gives me a good example of what I'm talking about. Like, you know how Superman can fly ridiculously fast in a straight line, but you see how he can zip, zip. He can see where he's going moving at those ridiculous speeds. It's pretty obvious when you see him running, he can zigzag and dash to the left, right real quick with speed. Some newer games even show off his combat speed even more on how time literally slows down when you playing as him. That's basically what I'm talking about when it comes to Sonic. He can combat at these speeds and run at these speeds. He can move his limbs ridiculously fast, all of it put together. That's mainly the reason why he's so strong. Like, this clip right here displays it best on how he's zigzagging while he's moving at super speed, ducking and dodging, dancing around everybody. Like, this is a great example of the speed and his reflexes being together. That's why you can see his hands deflect lasers. Or when he appears to be in different angles at the same time, that shows his fighting speed. He can zip around you and punch you. You know what I mean? I wanted to let that be known because when I bring up his speed, that's crucial to really understand his power. How fast his limbs can move also is important. Yeah, it's not my opinion. Sonic can use his speed to hit hard because he's the speed demon of the group. They even emphasize he has a powerful punch, mainly because of his speed. So let's get into it. But yeah, it's already stated that he has limitless potential, Sonic. Part of the reason why he's probably so fast is because he's literally an energy projector. You can literally see a bluish aura around him. Even his eyes will glow from time to time. Not to mention, I already mentioned he can literally shoot out energy balls. So one of Sonic's signature attacks is where he curls up into a ball and rams you like a ball. Physically speaking, I would definitely say he's stronger than normal humans. Even if he is small, it doesn't really matter. He's probably way stronger than his size. I mean, just look how fast he can run. So him being able to lift at least a couple tons or something seems fair. So let's just say it would take quite a bit of weight to pin Sonic down. So being disrespectful, you can kind of get an idea of how hard he can punch just by his running speed, because he can ram at you at those speeds, because like it's literally stated here, he's supersonic. 1,000,000 times it's stated he's supersonic. So this is just to give you a bare minimum understanding. That's like his nickname. He has to be a bare minimum, at least the speed of sound, just being disrespectful. I mean, even in brand new stuff on the website, they even talk about Sonic the Hedgehog, on how he's the fastest hedgehog to ever live. So there's plenty of lore of him being the fastest in this universe, on top of being a bare minimum of supersonic speed. If he can punch you at supersonic speed, I think we all can agree that as a bare minimum being disrespectful, he could definitely punch through thick brick or concrete walls. I mean, for Pete's sake, he was using the blade in this particular situation, but it pretty much proves he can hit through brick walls. Look at all this debris. He can just strike through. He can hit that hard via speed and punching power. I mean, it's pretty evident on the stuff that he hits. He easily one-shots it, whether it's giant stone golems. Despite the size difference, size seems to be nothing with his striking power, partly because of his speed. He seems to be able to just shatter these stuff. Like you see this rock, these meteors, he can shatter ice, stone walls. Now when it comes to his striking power, when it comes to gigantic boulders, he can just strike and literally break them apart, go through them like nothing, despite them being massively bigger than himself. He can strike really hard. Different Eggman robots, I'm probably going to bring up more of this later, but yeah, he's fought them plenty of times, even though they're huge, because of speed and striking power. You can get an idea of how heavy his blows or kicks are just from these robotic beings that are bigger than him. He can damage and dent them, make them explode with his strikes, to show, yeah, his punches and speed does equal weight for him. He can hit ridiculously hard. Size seems to never be an issue when it comes to these big robot mechs and things like that. He can damage and destroy. Like these daddy long-legged spider-like mechs, he can damage and stagger. Look at the size of this mech compared to Sonic's size. Like Sonic's straight hits can damage things like this. Just from assuming his slow speed of supersonic, his punches would easily have enough force to quake buildings or even level them if he wished. Just from that alone, supersonic speed, and we know he's faster than that. But he can hit things way bigger than himself, things that are dang near house size. So this kind of makes sense. The punch with 200 plus tons of force as a bare minimum being disrespectful. I mean, one could argue these boulders are like hundreds of tons. You see him just easily shatter these boulders with his striking power, homing attack type stuff. So it lets you know his hits are ridiculously hard, and this is not an exaggeration. You can tell he has weight behind his strikes. I mean, look how he does this mech being like this, for example, with his striking power, blitzing around it, ducking and dodging around it, dancing around it, breaking it apart with his punches and stuff. Not to mention, he didn't beat this being, but you see his punches stagger or move the head of this giant building, multi-story tall entity with his strikes. You know what I mean? Because you got moments where it's literally stated he can go faster than and break the sound barriers, like go even faster than the speed of sound. You got media like this, for example, in-game stuff. They talk about he's Mach 3 here, so at least 3 times the speed of sound. Yes, he can exceed Mach 1, to the point where they even dub him hypersonic. Not just supersonic, hypersonic. Hypersonic being like Mach 10 all the way up to Mach 20 and stuff. So in just raw point A to point B speed, he's already 10 times supersonic speed. Like, I'm talking about way faster. They even stated he can go light speed. Like, they was talking about light speed could be exceeded. Sonic pretty much said light speed, that's no challenge for him. So implying he can go light speed as a bare minimum or even faster, he makes it seem like a joke. Like, it's even talked about in stuff like this, when this is translated from Japanese to English, they talk about how Sonic's running speed is indeed supersonic, but he can reach light speed instantly. So yeah, he can jump to speeds, but he likes to casually run at supersonic, I guess, or slightly above it, but he can jump to light speed pretty fast. Not to mention it was even stated again that he can run faster than the speed of light in his running speed. Even if we assume Sonic's under the speed of light, that would still be astronomically insane punching power, being even higher than the highest nuclear bombs in the real world. If he was to ram at you at those speeds, so imagine if he actually hit you at the speed of light, his punches or kicks would have a lot of weight behind them. Light speed seems to be a common thing that's mentioned even in older games, newer stuff. It just happens a lot, that he can dash at light speed. Stated again about how he can attack at light speed. Light speed is constantly stated. Not to mention there was a time where there was just like this black hole type crap, and it appeared that Sonic, keep note that when he did this black hole outrunning crap, that one could argue he was tired because he just got done being in a fight with Eggman. So that's something to consider, something to put in consideration when you're analyzing them. You guys know how Eggman be having like these super powerful, overpowered machinery or mechs and things like that, powered by powerful things, you know. It's even talked about here on how Sonic can achieve light speed maneuvers. In Sonic Frontiers, there's like this digital dimension. Sonic has made multiple breaches into the cyberspace digital dimension and escaped under its own power. Eggman even said impressive. This cosmic being known as the End, the main villain of one of the newest games, Sonic Frontiers, even said this was impossible, being impressed by Sonic being able to do this, being able to escape cyberspace through his own power. In his base state, might I add. I mean, in Sonic's adventures, when it comes to his raw speed, I mean, he always has to compete with laser beams, laser guns. Yeah, no. It's a common Sonic trope to have to avoid laser beams and stuff, or even swat them away. And apparently here, Sonic and crew outrun the pool of a black hole. Like, yeah, that's kind of crazy, implying you would need a bare minimum of light speed, running speed to even do this. Like, this is one of those feats that's hard to measure, but this has to make him way faster than the speed of light. I mean, he's literally traversing places that have infinite space. There's been a case where he can apparently use his raw speed to run to different universes or other dimensions. Make this make sense. How do you measure this kind of level of speed? I mean, how do you measure having the speed to be able to restore the flow of time with raw speed? Like, how does that even freaking work? It's common knowledge that Supersonic is above normal Sonic, obviously, because of these superly overpowered Chaos Emeralds, of course, obviously. But what if I told you Sonic's base form, when it comes to how hard he can punch, he has faced beings that use emeralds to battle him and power their machinery up, like on plenty of occasions him fighting Eggman, and he's still competing with it, even in his base state, guys. This super genius, I'm going to give you a visual on some of the stuff that his inventions powered by some emeralds, powered by other artifacts can do just in general to let you know what base Sonic in a lot of situations have to deal with. Like, we've seen him use an Eclipse Cannon to show the kind of blast power to mess up huge planetoid structures like the moon type structures. Like, this type of stuff his blast can do. Sonic has to compete with this being most of the time. Just to put in perspective on what he's fighting and battling, this would imply that Sonic's punches are way more than even nuclear bombs by a large degree. Even one of these stones or Chaos Emeralds are strong enough to do the Earth like this. Just one of them, not all 6 or 7. Just one of them can do this type of stuff. For Sonic, even if he's not as strong as his super form self that's powered by Chaos Emeralds, even in his base state, there's still implications that his light speed or near light speed hits would have similar weight to like a whole bunch of continents falling on your face. If you know, because these Chaos Emeralds amp beings up with their durability and everything, durability and punching power. So he's damaging beings that's amped up by one of these things that can split the planet up. Like, oh, you thought I was playing? No, I'm not playing. These Chaos Emeralds can break the world into 7 parts. Like, I'm not playing about these Chaos Emeralds. They ain't no joke. Like, I'm not even getting on his super form yet, but like this implies that Sonic could do the same if he's in his super form, because he can undo the damage if he has a super form with the Chaos Emerald. And it's implied, like, you see him press the button, these emeralds can, just by pressing the button, devastate a planet. You know what I mean? So when it comes to Sonic's punching power, because we know these stones amp up people's durability and stuff too, if he can damage them somewhat, even if he's not necessarily equal to them, when it comes to beings powered up by Chaos Emeralds, honestly, different planets vary in size. So even if we wanted to be disrespectful and scale Sonic downwards when it comes to his punching power, even if we don't assume he can bust the planet Earth that would still be impressive considering there's other planetoids like the moon. He should technically by default with his punching power and speed put together be able to quake with his punches as a very minimum at the very least. If we just want to be disrespectful to him, of course, he should be at least able to tremble it with his punching power and stuff. The longer this video goes, you're probably going to easily start believing that he can definitely split the moon or planetoid size structures similar to this size with his incredible punching power. Trust me. There was like this chain connecting a little planet and he was able to shatter it with his striking power. Something that can support all that weight, you know what I mean? We've seen Sonic take on this being known as Chaos that was powered up by multiple Chaos Emeralds. This is Sonic in his base state fighting beings that are powered up by these Chaos Emeralds. The Chaos Emeralds be varying in power, so there's times where he can still hang in there with a being powered up by 4 Chaos Emeralds. Chaos Emeralds that improve beings' durability and all that stuff, and he's damaging these beings with his hits and homing attacks. Like, Sonic has fought this being Chaos multiple times in different states. You know, punching them, getting the win here, fighting stronger versions of Chaos to show how hard he can hit with his striking power against Chaos, base form, just to show it's a constant theme that Sonic can battle these beings. Even when they're powered up like this, he's even stronger here. Sonic even questions, could this be the same bees? In this particular situation, 6 Chaos Emeralds. So it just lets you know that Sonic's base form is fighting beings that are powered up by Chaos Emeralds and can hit them hard enough to damage them with his strikes and homing attacks. Similar to how these Chaos Emeralds amp up Sonic and give him ridiculous durability. Like, I'm talking about ridiculous durability to the point where they literally call him invincible, or they say he's immune to nearly all damage. Nearly all damage. So it lets you know that it increases the durability like crazy. And Sonic is punching these beings that are empowered by these same things and damaging them. So it lets you know these, like, Sonic's punching beings that have ridiculous durability, because this is what the Chaos Emeralds do to himself. So his opponents probably are getting amped up with durability and stuff extra, you know. Sonic's super form makes him ridiculously more powerful. I mean, he's not invulnerable completely. If you're strong enough, you can damage him with punches and stuff, but it just takes a ridiculous amount of force. He's dang near close to invincible, but there's times where he can be damaged, though. It just lets you know how hard he can freaking hit. So there's actually legit occasions where he's technically, one could argue, kind of fighting the Chaos Emeralds' power. One could say with his base state, fighting it technically because the beings are powered up by this stuff. And it's not just a one-sided beatdown. I already mentioned this, but friendly reminder, this is what the type of stuff the Chaos Emeralds can do. One Chaos Emerald, or even a couple of them, can do stuff like this. One of them, there's implications where Eggman uses the energy of them, can imply to destroy planets. It gets worse because these things can actually pierce stars, or there's implications they can destroy stars or do catastrophic damage to stars type size planetoid structures. Like, I'm not trying to say base Sonic is equal to the full power of the Chaos Emeralds, because there would be no point in Super Sonic then obviously, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying he can compete with some occasions of when the Chaos Emeralds, you know, because their powers fluctuate. So there's certain occasions where you can compete with the Chaos Emeralds in his base state. Even if we don't want to say he's completely equal to the Chaos Emeralds, even if we disrespect him, obviously different planets vary in size, and you guys know how small the Earth is compared to certain planets, and you know how certain planets like Saturn or Jupiter, and you see how small they look compared to the sun. So it being disrespectful, even if you don't want to say Sonic can punch apart the sun, which he more than likely can, which you're going to see the later this video goes, his punches would easily be able to mess up larger planets, just being a fraction or competing with a fraction of the Chaos Emerald's power, just a little bit. So easily his punches should be like a Earth falling on your face, basically, bare minimally. Or even larger planets like Jupiter or Saturn, his punches will be able to hit with similar force as, or more force to destroy it. Or even bigger planets, his punches technically would have the energy to tremble them with his strikes. Or even different sized suns. If you want to be disrespectful and say he can't destroy the biggest suns ever, even the smaller suns are bigger than the biggest planets. You know, this guy Eggman is actually pretty smart. Like, he's made plenty of different devices over the years, like this Final Egg Blaster, one of the many examples of him creating stuff that can destroy planets. It's just a common theme when it comes to planetoid, planet-busting type stuff, star-shattering type stuff, multiple stars being destroyed here, for example, stated. And this is what Sonic always has to face against all the time, just to give you an idea of what he always has to face. And Sonic's over here battling beings like Chaos that are powered up by emeralds. Things that can pierce stars, more than one stars with an S. And Sonic can indeed hit you because he can move faster than the speed of light, so he can ram into you at faster than the speed of light type speeds. It just makes sense. There's evidence to suggest that his base state, his running speed and reaction speed can react to stuff. Like, you see how they're traveling in deep space from this stuff? Like, he can react to this stuff even though they're passing stuff at ridiculous speeds. You see these meteors that he's reacting to that's falling towards him, like, that's coming from hyperspace? Like, yeah, like, you see they're passing stars ridiculously fast, that them blurred lines, that's what you see. That would imply, even though they're going through space like this, literally passing planets and stars like at warp speed, Meteors that come out of the blue, Sonic is able to dodge these type of things that, like, while they're warping through space, he has to avoid stuff like this. Debris going in hyperspace like this. And it's like a pattern. You guys know the deal. Usually when he can react to stuff, his running speed is similar to his fighting speed. You get the idea? This would imply every aspect about him when it comes to speed is way, 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 way faster than the speed of light in base state. I mean, super form can do better, whatever this base can do. I'm not done talking about Sonic in his base form, but let me jump to his super mode and talk about that for a little bit when he's powered up by these super chaos emeralds, so you can get an idea of how strong Sonic will be with these emeralds based on what the emeralds have done in the past. All of these things emeralds should do, he should be able to do too, because he has like all of them in the super state. Just like how his base form can compete with certain emeralds by themselves, like messing up planets. When it comes to his punching power and blast power, all that same stuff, his super form should be able to do that stuff too, because I already confirmed base form Sonic in this same video could tremble larger planets than Earth, bust the Earth, bust moons, tremble stars, destroy stars, or punch with similar force needed to destroy a star. His golden supersonic state should be able to do similar or way better by default, because it's him but on steroids basically. The main reason I want to talk about supersonic a little bit is because you can kind of get an idea of the base form Sonic based off this. Even though this is way above base form Sonic, there is times where Sonic in his base state is able to hang with beings that are powered by these emeralds. So that can kind of sort of help you understand Sonic's true potential in his blue state. You can kind of get an idea of how fast Sonic is. In this occasion that you see how the Earth is getting smaller by the second, that's crazy speed. Like in this occasion, there's implying they're passing stars at like warp speed, galaxy hopping type speed when he's like in a supersonic mode, for example. Like in scenes like this, you can clearly see supersonic with raw speed fly so fast. Well, the background, I know this is an old game, but the background implies that they're passing stars at a ridiculously fast speed. A simple Google search will let you know that stars are not close to each other, and we see Sonic passing multiple stars. This would imply over thousands of times faster than the speed of light type speed in his super mode, at least, which is no shock because of his base form. You know, since we know his super mode can use the power of these emeralds, one could say achieve infinite speed, at least in his super mode, because I already brought up earlier on how these chaos emeralds can stop time itself. He technically should be able to achieve infinite speed in his super mode. If he can do chaos control in his super form, that would technically make him be able to stop time in this form. So that would technically give him infinite speed temporarily if he uses chaos control in this state, right? If you're the only thing moving and everything in the universe is completely stopped, but you can still move. Like, I'm talking about completely stopped, not slowed down to the point where everything looks stopped. I'm talking about completely stopped. If you can stop time completely and still move, even if you was to move at 1 mile per hour, moving at 1 mile per hour while everything else is completely stopped, that's infinite speed. So technically via chaos control, if he uses chaos control, he should technically be able to achieve infinite speed temporarily, if you're to look at it that way. His fighting speed is absurd, just like normal stuff that you would expect. He could do this in his base state when it comes to dodging missiles. So of course his supersonic state can dodge this stuff too, combat speed wise. It's the kind of speed you would expect. He can warp around his opponent at absurd speeds and hit hard. The game even allows us to see stuff in his perspective on how he deflects all this stuff with his combat speed. Yeah, that's just straight speed. I mean, one of Sonic's newest opponents, known as the End, he had to scrap it out with. You know, Sonic has faced a lot of opponents up to this point. This being known as the End was apparently one of his mightiest. Of course, he can do stuff like split planets or destroy planets with ease if previous beings weaker could do stuff like this. You know, this is common Sonic stuff. I mean, Tails even compared the same being to previous foes they've fought or previous beings they've encountered, like Dark Gaia, you know, previous stuff they faced in the past. Yeah, so this being can easily destroy planets. Like, this dude was really tough, even when Supersonic was struggling. Even shot Blast at Supersonic, and he was struggling to block the blast with his hands and stuff, like Supersonic. So it's obvious that Supersonic, with his blast power, can easily destroy large planets or even stars. Yes, this being known as the End, because one of his opponents, known as the End, was able to make a shadow over a whole planet, so it lets you know the sheer size it would have to be to do this. And we've seen Sonic actually damage planet-sized things and do all this damage to him. So yeah, but this is not even the max of this being the End's power. This is a bare minimum. This being's just huge. And Supersonic can damage him. Yeah, I shouldn't have to convince you that Supersonic can cause planetary destruction. That should be easy for characters in this verse so far. Sonic had to work together to fight this ridiculously powerful being known as the End, a being that stated,
I am the all-consuming void. Countless stars, countless worlds, all fell to me, all brought to nothing.
Yes, this being the End may look like a planetoid type structure. This dude's even scarier than just planetoid stuff. You heard him say, and then it's pretty much backed up in the lore, that he's took out countless stars. Like, you know how the universe has a lot of stars? Like, this guy's implied to be able to consume all. This is the type of being Supersonic had to compete against in one of the newest games. Like, this is one of them situations where the super form by itself technically wasn't enough. So Sonic had to get like amps on top of amps, because this guy was literally tearing down the walls between dimensions and consuming all. Like, this is an example of, I already showed it, but I'm showing it again to give you more context. This was actually too much for a super form. Like, yeah, to where it was looking bad. Like, this being was going to consume all. This guy was a threat for everyone, everywhere, implying being a threat for the whole universe or more. I mean, they faced beings that were a threat to the whole universe before, so this would make sense. This being the end was so powerful, Sonic in his super state had to beat him before he reached full power. That's how much of a threat he was. Matter of fact, this being was so strong, even when he's possessing stuff that's not necessarily like his full power, like he's possessing other things, Super Sonic had issues damaging it. See, if you played Frontiers, you know Sonic was having like a corruption issue. Like, he was going into cyberspace, and the cyberspace was making him have corruption. He had to combine this corruption energy with his super form to gain an extra boost in power to even kind of remotely scratch this little avatar of the one, if that makes sense. It's talking about how his super form basically got a power up, where he basically became a supersonic corruption, cyber corruption fused being. Like, this is probably some of the strongest he's ever been. And he was actually able to take out the end before he could become his full power. A being that was going to like wipe out reality. So that's definitely implications him in his super form. He can take on beings that's mighty enough to wipe out a universe or universes, consume all. But he's not always like this, obviously. He had like corruption amping him up with the super form, fighting this being that was tougher than any threat he had in the past. And when you consider that this being known as the End, stated to be infinite compared to Sonic's other foes in the past. Guys, Sonic has fought some crazy foes in the past. I know villains like to overhype themselves and hype themselves up compared to the previous villains, but based on how hard Sonic struggled to face them and still wasn't at his full power, and he still had to have help, it kind of makes sense that this being is the strongest threat. I mean, he stated to be infinite compared to Sonic's previous foes.
You have fought machines and gods. They were mighty. They were finite. I am infinite.
You guys remember beings like Solaris, who was considered a being that was going to consume all existing timelines or universes? You know, because a timeline is basically a universe. Another timeline is basically another universe. And he is stated to have infinite power compared to somebody like this. You're probably wondering, how does infinite power get greater than infinite power? Well, this is kind of getting into some cosmic being status type stuff where there's different levels of infinite. The best way I can help you understand how do you get past infinite power is because, like, okay, Marvel Comics, for example, this is a random example. There's like multiple beings that have infinite power in Marvel Comics, right? But there's still beings that are above other beings that have infinite power. Like, that's why I say it's different levels of infinite power. Think of it like this. A three-dimensional being that's the people we're used to, like three-dimensional heroes, people that are three-dimensional, that exist in one timeline and one universe at the same time, right? And you can have infinite power, right? But that still wouldn't compare to somebody that's a higher dimensional being that has infinite power. Like, it's astronomically different when it comes to powers. This is what you would consider on those levels. It's hard to even imagine as us mere mortals, or even scientists have a hard time in imagining this. This is beyond human comprehension, levels of infinite. Like how Darkseid is one of those type of beings in DC. I don't want to stay on DC too long, but yeah, he's one of those higher dimensional beings where he will fall everywhere in the multiverse because his true self, his true body is too big for everything to understand or comprehend. So he will end up almost collapsing everything. Like, that's the conceptual type being type stuff we're talking about. Like, his true glory is too big for a three-dimensional being to comprehend, even if they have infinite power, which is why he has to make 3D avatars of himself to fit in the little tiny 3D universe for us mere mortals or humans to comprehend his glory. Think of this same concept in the Sonic universes. Like, say, for example, even if these beings have infinite power, Sonic in super form technically would have infinite power. But when you're fighting beings that are higher dimensional or exist in multiple places at once, their bodies and power bust through the confines of what the universe can contain. That's why you get into the different levels of infinite, if that makes sense. And then you got beings that are infinitely above beings like this from the past. That's why Sonic had to get power-ups on top of power-ups to even stand up to him. You know, it just gets crazy. I mean, let's just analyze Sonic in the past of his previous foes, since we know the end is above them. Solaris has been referred to via translations. I'm personally using my own Google Translate for this, as a hyperdimensional or extra-dimensional being. More than one occasion of them talking about how he's a higher dimensional, hyperdimensional being, talking about his body can absorb various dimensions. Matter of fact, Supersonic, who's powered by these stones or gems or whatever, Solaris had to use these same gems. That's one of the reasons why he got so powerful anyway. So based on Solaris's might, you can get an idea of Supersonic. He's literally powered up by the same stuff. Like, you can literally see the emeralds. Yeah, it's because it is the reason why Solaris is even powered up anyway, so it lets you know how strong these Chaos Emeralds are. That's what Supersonic's powered by. He was going to consume every timeline and annihilate the meaning of time itself, consume all existing timelines. Time itself will collapse and disappear into nothingness. Confirmed in the lore that he was going to permanently rend the fabric of the universe, transforming everything into nothing. All of space-time was in danger.
Time is just one dimension of reality. Within the endless possibilities of space, there could be an infinite number of other Sonics out there. When it comes to the multiverse, anything is possible.
So yeah, there is a multiverse. This can kind of give you an idea of how strong Supersonic could possibly be when it comes to infinite power. Supersonic was basically able to combat this. The only thing is that he existed in past, present, and future at the same time. So all he did was share the power with other beings, but it still should kind of apply for Supersonic because he's just amping them up with a piece of his power anyway. So it kind of should still apply for Supersonic. He just divided it so they can fight him in different parts in time with other beings like Silver and such. So technically, Supersonic, when it comes to limitless power and being able to cause universe destruction, he technically should be able to cause universe destruction or even more than one universe type destruction. He's fighting a being that was threatening multiple universes or timelines, and there's literally an infinite multiverse. There was implications that Solaris had them beat, but like I said, he fought a being stronger, like the End, later on. So this would imply that one could say Sonic's super form has gotten better since those old games, or the End could have been lying. I don't think the End was lying, but yeah, this does imply that Supersonic could cause major damage to different universes at the same time if he really just wanted to be a villain. I mean, via chaos control, there's already implications he can do time manipulation or reality warping to some degree, and he's literally powered up by these emeralds that can cause reality destruction. It's not like we ain't even seen him use reality type of distortion in the past. He's just not an evil person. We're not going to see him actually wipe out a universe. So we haven't seen him do it. But based on the beings he's fighting and the power he divided to fight beings like Solaris, he ended up fighting a stronger being like the End. All of this universe, multiple universe type destruction just seems to make sense. So simply saying he can quake or cause destruction to one universe is kind of disrespectful. One can say he's beyond infinite power when it comes to these Chaos Emeralds. More than we can comprehend. He could possibly mess up infinite timelines or not infinite timelines or universes. Yeah, this being Solaris, I just want to give you some more, like even the Japanese version, they say the same thing, erase the very meaning of time. And when it comes to this being known as Solaris, they talk about how they had to fight him. In the lore is that he does have a weak spot. Sonic and crew, powered up by the Chaos Emeralds, had to fight a being and break the armor plating of Solaris's armor, implying that the heroes cannot withstand many hits even in supersonic state. So as durable as supersonic in him is, it's still ridiculously strong. And if we're to take what the End said as Bible, he's infinitely stronger than this guy who got his form complete just from the Chaos Emeralds, which would pretty much take infinite amount of energy or power. And supersonic, when it comes to the End, this would also imply that if this guy really was stronger than Solaris and them, this would also imply that this being able to withstand a blast from this same being, even though this was a ridiculously hard struggle and he needed help, he was able to withstand it temporarily. This would imply that Sonic, probably currently in this state, could probably take on Solaris by himself if there's implications that his base super form is way better, or Sonic knows how to use the Emerald's power a lot better in this newer game. That could imply that Sonic could take on Solaris 1v1 without really much help now, maybe, possibly. Not to mention this being was planet-sized, so. And then you got this cosmic type being known as the Time Eater. Like his name literally says it all, Time Eater. Supersonic had to phase. This being Time Eater pretty much confirmed that he obliterates time and space. A mysterious new villain tears a hole in the fabric of space-time. With reality as we know it destroyed, Sonic must navigate the white space, a strange realm between dimensions that holds the universe together. This dude was messing up multiple universes. Like, because one timeline is one universe, like multiple timelines were getting messed up. Reducing reality to a white space.
Time is just one dimension of reality. Within the endless possibilities of space, there could be an infinite number of other Sonics out there.
They're fighting beings that can mess up multiple universes. They've done this several times, fighting multiple different beings that are a threat to the entire universe, or multiple universes, or multiple timelines. In general, beings that are a threat to a multiverse, basically. There was like two Supersonics. Sonic's young self and his older self had to fight this being, in their super forms. The battle encompassed different dimensions while they was fighting them. These two different Sonics and their super forms had to combine their might to work together against a ridiculously powerful being. This powerful, withstanding their blast, even though this being shooting blast at them, this cosmic type being, they had to overpower. Yeah, Sonic might be one of the most overpowered video game characters of all time, and nobody acts like it. Like, let's be honest, he might actually be. They only talk about the Archie him. but his video game self for him is busted too. Just to give you more understanding of the Chaos Emeralds, after they want to defeat that monster, the plan was to use the Chaos Emeralds to restore everything to back the way it was. These same emeralds is what Supersonic and them are powered by. These gems that have the power to restore or reshape reality back to the way it was and such. And this is what Supersonic has to do. Battling, blasting, and damaging beings that are a threat to the multiverse seems to be a common theme for Supersonics. All this stuff I've been saying about Supersonic and stuff, just imagine if we seen a modern day Hypersonic, which is mightier than Supersonic. Oh my goodness, wouldn't that have been fun to see? Because you got the Chaos Emeralds, you got the Super Emeralds, the Hypersonic, you know. This is an old form. We probably won't see it again, never again. But yeah, if this ever happened, yeah, all these past villains, y'all need to run. Anything these past forms or supersonic forms technically could do, this one would technically be able to do all that or to a higher degree. Let's be honest, the multiverse will shatter if this form comes back. Let's be honest, everybody. And you know Sonic's character is heavily related to his speed, so the faster a Sonic version of himself is, you know, the more force he probably could hit with and stuff, you know. And it's confirmed that Hypersonic is even faster than Supersonic, you know, just an all-around scarier beast. I mean, that's probably why people compare Sonic to Mario, because they're both video game characters that get tons of different power-ups thanks to games and stuff. Sonic got this mode known as Dark Spine Sonic. The reason why this transformation is even here, there was like these world rings. You see them go into them. In this cinematic right here, for example, these rings literally was giving off emotions of sadness and different bad despair type stuff, you know, and that's how that happened. There's like these emotions, and he absorbed the emotions of rage and sadness and crazy bad stuff. And that's how he kind of became this edgy looking Dark Sonic. One of the many power-ups in Sonic lore, just like the Chaos Emerald, Super Emeralds, like this is one of them things. Yeah, this is another occasion of him facing a being that can remake the world or remake reality in his own image. Like, this is the type of beings they constantly like always got to face, reality warping type beings and stuff. Supersonic and other hypersonic forms are not the only forms he has that can technically do reality warping type stuff. This form can kind of do that stuff too. They even state, lend me your power. So yeah, Sonic was powered up. Everything he can do before, but he can do some extra stuff in this state, fighting this super powerful being. He can now lace his punches with flames, doing pyrokinetic abilities. Like, he's like a Human Torch Sonic, basically. Not only did Sonic compete with this being in raw power, like in Dark Spine, like they literally are powered by the same stuff. So why wouldn't they be similar in power? Like, we see him withstanding his beams, pushing his stuff backwards, punching him and kicking him, back at him, to damage him. On top of that, other than actually winning in this state, he actually showed reality warping himself, being able to restore reality to where it once was. Like, it was literally just messed up at first. He just fixed it that easily. So even if reality is messed up, this form of Sonic is busted enough to basically able to reality warp and bring reality back with just the wave of his hand. Like, reality had like a cast, so you can see everything in the background, but when this guy was trying to mess up and remake everything, you can kind of see in the boss battle that everything in the background or reality itself was distorted. Like, you see like a black space. So it seemed like this was true, and all this got restored after Sonic seemed to restore reality. Like, you see him actually do it himself with his raw energy, taking him back to his base state, of course. Not to mention all the stuff I mentioned earlier in this video, the base Sonic can do, this form can do better. On top of having the power to restore the universe, he actually has flame projection on top of all this. So yeah, this Sonic was crazy. But of course he didn't keep this. This is one of the many temporary power-ups. As you guys know, the Chaos Emeralds are always involved somehow. See, here's the thing, like, you know, Eggman and his many fights with Eggman used to take the emeralds out of Sonic so he can go back to his base form to release this being known as Dark Gaia. Long story short, Sonic's energies got entangled with all this energy type of output stuff that was going on, all this shenanigans. Temporary power of this game, he was like empowered to where he became like a werewolf type entity. So he had like a base form, and then he had this werewolf mode type thing that comes out at nighttime. He didn't keep it, but yeah, as this form, he can do defensive energy barrier type things in this new state. This was only a transformation that happened when the sun goes down though. So he doesn't have like complete control over it when he did have this during the game events. He seems to be able to enlarge his limbs or arms to increase his striking power. So one could say all the base Sonic stuff he's known for, he can do in this state too when it comes to striking hard. But he loses some speed for power, one could say. And it seems like all his attacks are laced with like purple energy enhancing his blows. Purple or blue energy, you know. Logically speaking, since this form is kind of similar somewhat when it comes to power output to Chaos Emeralds and stuff that I've already brought up a million times in this video, in this state, he should be somewhere in that ballpark. I'm not going to say he's up there with Hypersonic or nothing or completely equal to Supersonic, but he's got to be somewhere in that ballpark. Even if he's weaker, it would still be catastrophic when it comes to his raw power output and how hard he can hit. This form was known for brute power, you know what I mean? So his punches would have to be astronomical, not to mention he can enhance his punches with aura energy and stuff. We've seen him battle stuff that we're used to seeing him battle, like super mechs and stuff in this state. Just like how Sonic was charged up with Dark Gaia energy, kind of the reason why his werewolf form is here. The Eggman kind of used this too to make his bots mightier too, and was considered one of the pinnacle of his creations ever. But yeah, this is not the only power-up he got. One could call him Excalibur Sonic, you know, when he was using the sword. To be one of the best knights, he's had power-up like this. And yeah, this is a really cool transformation sequence of him being armored up in armor with a blade, the Excalibur. This universe's interpretation of the Excalibur thanks to these sacred swords. Imagine what his cutting power is like this. Yeah, that's the greatest of the sacred swords, Excalibur. Merlina, which more than likely stands for Merlin. That's like a common folklore theme of Merlin being the best magician. They said Merlina. You see how they did that there. Beings that he has to fight and cut up, hurt a being that can literally freeze time, you know, one of the fundamental forces of reality. There's also implications this is way above his base form because there's certain beings he wouldn't be able to take on. If he could do this in his base form, they wouldn't have him have this. You know what I mean? So just like his base form, this can do better. It can one can argue it can do what similar stuff Chaos Emeralds can do when it comes to its cutting power, destructive power. But of course he doesn't keep this either, you know. So yeah, so Sonic has had a lot of different temporary power-ups and stuff, but I want to go back to his base form because I don't want you guys to forget that his base form is still a beast. You can kind of get an idea of his base form and how far his base form has become. There are some things that super forms have had issues with in the past that his base form currently has to fight better versions of those same inventions. Like, you know how Eggman improves as time goes by with his technology? There's been inventions in the past where Super Sonic had issues with, but base form Sonic can currently fight even newer machines that are better and that Eggman considers stronger than his previous inventions. Keep note that Eggman in the past with weaker robots. Just keep this in mind, that in really old content, Eggman has had bots that have battled against Super Sonic. Just keep that in mind when you see Sonic fighting these newer, up-to-date machines. Like, just keep this in mind. A lot of his older machines was giving super forms some issues here and there. So yeah, even though his super forms will always be better, because what would be the point of them if they wasn't, there's definitely implications he still can hang with some bots that Eggman has improved up over the years, implying that his hits can't be... I mean, the strength gap is big, but it can't be as astronomical as you're probably thinking. Like, there's really no math on how much more powerful the emeralds make somebody. But we've seen Sonic in his base state put in work against certain Eggmobiles. Like, there's even occasions where this super mech that's battled super forms before will blast Sonic in his base state, and he'll have like a little beam struggle, and he has to push against the force of this being blasting him. So it lets you know base Sonic is still crazy, overpowering his beams, like a beam struggle type Kamehameha type clash. So it gets a little tough understanding base Sonic's full potential, especially with all these different power-ups and stuff. When we compare the punching power of Sonic like this, like, it's obvious that Super Sonic got him beat by miles. But when we start getting into the cosmic beings stuff, I'm talking about beings I've showed you him fight in this video, beings that are so powerful that they're above levels of infinity and stuff. Once you get past that level of infinity, no matter how you slice it, even if Sonic is 1/1000th of the strength of a Super Sonic, that would still, like, because, you know, Super Sonic can threaten multiple universes, restore multiple universes and timelines and stuff. Even if we assume this Sonic is 1/1000th of that strength, that would still, by default, make him a being that's a threat to multiple universes. That's how big these levels of infinity type stuff get, guys. Like, even if we was to take it even further and say base form Sonic is 1/1,000,000th of the punching power of this one, that would still mean he would be able to threaten universes with his punches, or his mass or punches would be that heavy. Like, it just, no matter how you slice it, when this form gets so strong, it kind of gives him some credit here, even if he's lower, if that makes sense. Does that make sense to you? Sonic is confirmed to have a multiverse, so I pretty much already confirmed in this video that Super Sonic can restore different timelines and universes, even if it's multiple or infinite that was about to be erased by this Time Eater being. If he can snap or just blink stuff like this out of existence, or destroy stuff like this, multiple universe-sized structures, infinite-sized universes in each one, even if we assume base form Sonic is 1/1,000,000th of this power, that would still prove base form Sonic's strength is astronomical, even if he's astronomically weaker than this one. Does that make sense to you? I hope that does. It sounds crazy because of all this conceptual type stuff, but that's kind of how it is. He would definitely, his fist technically should have the weight of an entire universe or multiple at this point. Just being anywhere, competing with super forms to even the smallest degree would make him look impressive. Usually light speed punches don't always imply this in fiction because, you know, in real math, light speed punches technically would mean infinite mass. I mean, when you think about all the beings that base form Sonic has had to face, these beings that are threatened to multiple universes, fighting beings that are powered by Chaos Emeralds that can threaten the universe depending on how they use the emeralds. That light speed punches thing for Sonic having infinite mass kind of starts to be more pliable in this universe, doesn't it? In every game, he's basically like on some Dragon Ball Z stuff where he does get stronger every game, basically, if we're going to be honest, in the lore. And the being that he's fought in this new game, Frontiers, was stated to have infinite power compared to his previous villains, who already can threaten multiple universes or timelines. If he's infinite compared to those guys, Sonic has to be way astronomically stronger than he was in the past games. It just makes sense, including his super forms. I mean, it kind of adds up. I mean, just think about it. He gets stronger in every game. He fought this being known as the N in his super form. There was even a point where the super form wasn't enough. It knocked him out into his base form, and his base form didn't die from this, of being like when he was fighting a minion of the final boss and the explosion hit him, but he didn't die, and he had to get the emeralds back in him after this. Then he had to awaken even more power, learning how to use the emeralds better. It just all adds up, technically. Like I said, while it is true that Super Sonic will always have his base form beat because it's whatever his base form can do but better, this doesn't mean his base form is just like building level or some crap, like, or some, he can only level a city or something. Like, it just wouldn't make sense if it was that low compared to this stuff. You know what I'm saying? He's always fighting beings that have Chaos Emerald amps. So like, it's like a common trend of him getting stronger and faster with each game. So technically by default, his punches would still technically be as heavy as a galaxy or two galaxies, a whole universe, more than one universe. You know, it's a lot of ways you can look at it in his base state. So based on the opponents he's always fighting, his base form should easily be able to shatter moons. Planets like Earth, he should be able to easily shatter or shake with his punches, especially light speed punches, or faster. Even planets much larger than the Earth, like Jupiter or Saturn, his light speed punches should be able to cause catastrophic destruction too. Even celestial bodies that make Jupiter or bigger planets look like a joke, he shouldn't have no problem producing enough energy, the equivalent energy, to shatter or tremble such a large celestial object, or multiple planets the mass of the solar system, a galaxy. His fist should feel like the weight of more than one galaxy. Universe shaking power, even higher. It just gets ridiculous. What do you think Sonic's punching power is? Do you think I'm on drugs? All your opinions are more than welcome. Let's get it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't underestimate Sonic, the main universe Sonic, not just Archie. Before I get going, I gotta say thanks for the donations, everybody. Helps out a lot. Respect, Sonic. I'm glad you are enjoying your time on the channel. Make sure you check out the playlist on the channel to see other How Strong videos. If you like what this channel is offering, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys later.